It's time. I'm back.
Welcome to another game review and the beginning of the SNES League 2024. So now when people talk about the Xbox 360, they usually talk about the RPGs. And there's a reason for it. There ain't that many of them, at least not exclusive. Yeah, but it's a very Japanese thing, and that is where most RPGs were when they started out. Now they did come out later on, although that was more or less from the 2000s onwards, well, exception of Final Fantasy 1997. But the reason why is simply because Japan didn't really care much about the Xbox. It was criticized from them from the very beginning. Now this mainly because Japan are Mac users and so Sony fans. So the Xbox 360 was less of a priority. Some of them did come out, and one of them is Enternal Sonata for the Xbox 360. Now this game was released in early 2007 as one of the first exclusive RPGs from Japan. Is it any good? Well, let's talk about it. So, this RPG is the usual one, with you running at several areas, fighting against enemies and earning EXP. You play Algerado to begin with, a casual adventurer with nothing going for him, who embarks on a big adventure along with his friend Pete, with the plot involving something not good for people but ends up being really successful. Now, one of the biggest aspects of an RPG is the core gameplay itself, combat, which is the reason I wanted to make this video in the first place. But there are more aspects such as characters, environment, graphics. Well, they are okay. They don't really stand up much in certain aspects, in some others, in others. It's really obvious these areas were built for battles they minded, not necessarily to sell postcards. They are really open and explorable, a nice idea on the surface, but flawed in the long run. Although, not necessarily a problem to just this game, just RPGs in general. In some levels it works by angling the camera downwards from a bird's eye view. At other times it simply just doesn't sit well. It's just so large with almost nothing interesting to see, just a few enemies here and there. It doesn't help how slow the characters really are, and there's no way to speed up. May I mind you, some areas are like that, others not really, but maybe they were designed this way for the enemy, something I can accept. Speaking of which, let's talk about the battle standouts. How are they? Well, I love them! One of the biggest compliments is how most RPGs are really slow and selective. Don't let them attack, then you are allowed to attack by selecting them from the battle screen and watch a long and drawn out animation. This game solves that style in exchange for a more quick and fun way of attacking enemies. One of the biggest compliments is how most RPGs are really slow and selective. Don't let them attack, then you are allowed to attack by selecting them from the battle screen and watch a long and drawn out animation. This game solves that style in exchange for a more quick and fun way of attacking enemies. A battle commences, and here is the map. All the enemies are shown, which is very welcoming. Now take a look on the gauge on the screen, which also appears to have a timer. It's counting down from the very moment you move, at least at this part of the level. Now you have to hurry up to get the enemies to attack them, and attack them with the A button as fast as possible. Then push right to utilize your special move. Another plus is how the attack scores are shown whenever fighting occurs. It's like Vision ASMR done right. While the battle gauge is emptied, the turn is over and goes over to the enemies. They do absolutely nothing offensive while you engage in a fight. They just stand around seemingly accepting a certain death, like a gamer who has lost his controller. When their turn comes, that's when all hell breaks loose. They come at you with a string of attacks in succession, and if you do nothing, believe me, they will empty your health fast. You can, however, shield yourself if the timing is right. Then when the battle is over and EXP is counted and added to the ones you have. There's no way to trick the game to gain more points. Points are always calculated like this. The enemy's points times whatever the amount of them. There are always at most 3. It can't go any higher. At least one every time. Like I said, you have a special attacks which can be used at any time. They usually have the amount of damage to attack you regularly. And then they'll have final blow in a special attack, which is always recommended. There is no other satisfactory feeling than to see the enemy being blown up by it. They are all very varied depending on the area, from the plants to the ducks amongst more. There are also boss fights meant to pose a challenge, something they don't if you just go in and out into a different room. Yeah, they all respawn, which is perfect for EXP farming. As for the bosses themselves, they pose a bigger challenge than your standard enemies, but not as much as you think. They basically act as regular enemies. They have a standard attack pattern and then you strike them like crazy while you can. It does devalue them a bit since it doesn't feel like a well thought out boss. Just keep on attacking them like there's no tomorrow. They're cool designs though, so I guess it's more of a subjective taste. I like them personally. Well, that was an RPG without strong and memorable characters. Does this game deliver anything on that front? Well, that depends. While on the map, only the main character, Algerado, is always seen. But believe me, there are always two with him at all times. Are they good characters? Well, they're nothing special, just not very amazing. They are very basic. Algerado is your typical hero. Beat is the typical psychic. Polka is the typical token girl. Frederick is the typical con collector guy. You see, just typical pro-text, nothing bad, just nothing special. Although Frederick is the one with the most potential to be a great character, at least based on the cutscenes shown in this footage, which are silent, mind you, no music. For some people it works, for others, well, they are just something to skip. To me, I appreciate cutscenes without music at some point. Some others, well, not so much. But why exactly is this game called Enternal Sonata anyway? What does it mean? What's the gimmick? Well, read these text boxes to learn. It's based around the famous piano player Chopin and his life. It's not mentioned by the cast, but it does come up several times for the player to enjoy. And the story is about two substances, with the worser one selling best and the best selling worser. And Polka being a magical person who brings sadness around everyone, and Frederick the more involved characters, more than Beat and Algerado. This was the only game so far in this franchise with absolutely nothing more beyond this. It's kinda sad really. Oh well, maybe something happens later.
So that was Eternal Sonata for the Xbox 360. Do I recommend you give it a try? Well, maybe if you gameplay is interesting to you, then yes. However, if you expect a hardcore action-packed RPG all the time, well, I'm sorry, you will be disappointed. So that was everything for this episode. Bye!